It's over. I did it. I did it. I did it. Wow, Frank, Mao, and Al Capone were voiced by the same character? That's crazy. I did it. No. I did it. I'm quite pleased. That final boss was insane. Alrighty. Shadow Hearts from the New World has been conquered. Finally, that was somewhere around like 3 hours of attempts, and it's kind of a lot of attempts too. But yeah. My overall thoughts. I feel. Hold on, let me reduce the volume here. Reduce it on the stream. Reduce it for myself. Just go all the way over there. It's kind of loud for me, but you know, whatever. My overall thoughts for this game is I feel this is effectively Shadow Hearts 2.5 or so. We're just gonna have to mute this. It has lyrics. That's gonna get claimed on YouTube. And my thoughts from what I can remember of Shadow Hearts 2 was I really liked the gameplay, and the story was the worst part about it. And I feel somewhat similarly here, except I don't think the gameplay in this game is an improvement over Shadow Hearts 2. And some of those feelings are because of the final boss and the bullcrap. But just, I don't remember if stock was a thing in Shadow Hearts 2. I'm pretty sure, I feel like that's new in this game. And I think the addition of stock just sends things tumbling in horrible directions. Again, influenced by final boss for sure, but in other instances, you know, it's just like seeing enemies do things that they shouldn't, that you think they shouldn't be able to do, and get turns when they are not, you don't think they're supposed to be getting those turns. It just creates a lot of problems for the experience that I had. So I think my overall feelings about this game is that I didn't like it. And this is a very interesting scenario for me because, as I'm sure many people are aware, I am a gameplay first type of person. And so even if a story is not good or mediocre or absolutely atrocious or whatever, like as long as the gameplay is good, I'm gonna enjoy the game for the most part. But the story in this game has actually negatively impacted the enjoyment that I feel I could have had from this. And that's primarily because the story is not very good in my opinion. It has characters that it doesn't expand upon. It has a plot that it doesn't really expand upon. The main villain is a character that I think says 2 words. Maybe 1 word actually, just killer. And we have to assume what lady's objectives are and all this other crazy stuff. Killer is a guy that is just hanging around because this crazy lady revived. It's just all kinds of nonsense and bonkers, and by far the least enjoyable thing about this game. That said, I guess when it comes to gameplay mechanics and design, the combat is still fun when it works the way that you think it should work. Which is to say, when the turn order is exactly the way it is reflected, then it's working perfectly. But when you get into the things where enemies are getting turns when they weren't supposed to get turns, or like bosses will get 2 or 3 turns in a row, or the final boss where the final boss just gets a turn like at the start of the battle and then you just die instantly.
Nathan went back to his Grand Canyon village. These days he lives as a warrior, protecting all of his brothers in the tribe. He said he did his duty and asked me to take care of the rest. Frank, he's with his ninja comrades, still fighting to protect peace and freedom. He's actually become kind of famous and appears on TV from time to time. Maybe I'm being off base here, but aren't ninjas supposed to be kind of invisible? Master Meow, she's become a huge Hollywood star, a dramatic actor who can do action-adventure too. At least that's what the buzz is. Nobody seems to notice she's a cat. Hilda, she returned home loaded down with an armful of souvenirs.
I don't know when I'll wake up again. It may be 100 years or so, but if you're still alive, I'll visit.
Says her. Ricardo disappeared after placing flowers on Edna's grave. He didn't say a word to anybody. Maybe later, when I'm a little older, I'll wander into a bar and find him singing. It'll make me real happy. And as for me...
Yes? This is Garland Detective Agency. Yes? Yes? Right. Yes, right, I understand. We'll be right there. Master! We got a call from a guy named Baker in the 3rd borough. It seems they're missing their sweet little kitty cat, and they want us to run over there and find it.
Man, again? I told you not to take those kind of jobs.
I know. You don't have to remind me. I'll go with you if you want me to.
I'll be fine. And don't treat me like a child. Later.
Master! Please, be careful.
Well, they got him sounding and looking like Frankenstein's monster. Like, come on, man. They're gonna show like some of the other Shadowheart characters. I think Yuri's still alive, right? Oh no, I'm hurt. You guys forget that she got the kiss of Malice? Did you guys forget it? Did you guys forget it? Come back for Shadow Hearts 4! Alrighty. I don't remember what I was talking about, but I think it was when the turn orders and things like that in combat are going good, it's good. When it's not so much. I didn't write down my thoughts for this game, by the way, because my first impressions for day 1/2, maybe 3. I don't remember when I got around to writing these, but combat seems just as in-depth, if not more so, than Shadow Hearts Covenant. The writing, voice acting, story development, and plot progression and pacing are all just Shadow Hearts Covenant, which is a bad thing. This game does not make me interested in the new Shadow Hearts spiritual successor because once again it deviates too far from what I enjoyed about the original Shadow Hearts. Yeah, like I don't feel excited or I don't feel like anticipation for the Shadow Hearts spiritual successor because Shadow Hearts 1 was the game where I was like, okay, this is interesting. And then Shadow Hearts 2 was like, the gameplay is so good. It's like the jump from Kingdom Hearts 1 to Kingdom Hearts 2. Like the gameplay is just so good. But I didn't like the story in Shadow Hearts 2. It was completely different from Shadow Hearts 1. Like completely different. The tone was we're goofy and we're doing goofy stuff and the scary / creepy elements just didn't fit anymore because they decided to make it like a slapstick comedy. And this game is basically the same as Shadow Hearts 2, or Shadow Hearts Covenant. So the natural progression here is they're not going to go back to Shadow Hearts 1. They're just going to do another Shadow Hearts 2 / Shadow Hearts 3 for the new iteration. And I'm not really interested in going through another, silly story. Although I guess I will say that that this game was considerably more focused on weird way to go about this, but like Shadow Hearts Covenant was just all around silly, but this one had some serious elements surrounding it. Like towards the end there, where before the final boss fight, lady sets down Killer and like she's crying and stuff like that. Like that's a very interesting moment. And I don't remember Shadow Hearts Covenant having moments like that. So this game does take a step into more serious moments and scenes and things like that, but it's just not enough. Because the story is broken up into the way it is, and because the characters act the way they do, and because there's like zero development, we don't get to learn anything about Grace, I think her name is, Johnny's sister. We don't get any of that information, so it's kind of ridiculous. But for Cardinal Sins, backup party earns less experience. I believe we determined this to be 50%. Removing a key party member without sufficient replacement. Shania leaves the party at one point. I think that's it. Forcing the player to use certain party members. I don't remember the examples of this, but it happens. And this one is probably one of the more frustrating things about this game, and it's positional damage without the ability to reposition. There are area attacks in this game, and if I had the ability to spread out my characters, not every single character would be getting hit by area attacks. That final boss might have been a little bit easier for me because my characters would be going in to places that are a little bit safer, and so they won't be like there won't be circumstances where 3 to 4 characters are getting hit with a gigantic attack. Maybe it's just 1 to 2 characters, which is something that is recoverable. But this game doesn't do that. They move around like wherever they want, and sometimes that's fine and sometimes that's not. So that was really frustrating for me. For miscellaneous sound and music, the music, I'm going to have to re-listen to this soundtrack because there are so many tracks where I listened to them for like the 25 seconds that they were on, and I was like, whoa, I could remix this track. And so I got to do that. For voice acting, the voice acting was very, very silly. Back in, there was a game that I played recently. I guess I won't, I don't have to say its name, but it had very silly voice acting. And, if you were here, you know, it had very silly voice acting. And instead of detracting from the game, it actually made the game the enjoyable experience that it was for me. Like, it was one of the highlights of that game because it was so silly because it was so serious, but for whatever reason I took it super silly. It was just super fun and enjoyable for me. And that did not happen here. I could not take the voice acting to be that enjoyable. So it didn't necessarily detract or anything like that, but it didn't add anything. It didn't make the game more exciting or what have you. For graphics, the graphics look fine. I will say, I won't even say it. I'll just say that we could certainly do without the very specific camera shots that are happening all the time. You can relax. If it is a sequel, does it achieve more of the same? It actually does. I feel if you play Shadow Hearts Covenant, I think this game is offering more of the same. Again, like the tone of the story and how it portrays the story and stuff like that, I feel is a little bit more serious than Shadow Hearts Covenant. So that might be a divergence that matters. But I feel like the gameplay, while not necessarily being better, is still offering things that Shadow Hearts Covenant does. And so you'll more than likely still find yourself enjoying the general gameplay. Is the game worth recommending? Well, if you're like me, I would say no. In the sense of, if you like Shadow Hearts 1, I probably would not recommend this one. But I guess it depends on what you like about Shadow Hearts. Because I saw Arrow Mio talking about how I said I liked creepy. And like Shadow Hearts 1, the atmosphere was creepy. It was never a scary game. It just had a lot of creepy elements to it. And that was something that I really latched onto, potentially because it was the only game that I've played of its kind where it did that, but also had, like gameplay and story elements to back it up. And so it was just an enjoyable experience and a very unique experience for me. Whereas the other iterations kind of go into traditional JRPG shenanigans. Shadow Hearts 1 was rated M for mature. Shadow Hearts Covenant and Shadow Hearts from the New World are rated T for teen. And I feel that that plays a huge role on the expectations and what to anticipate from those specific games. So for me personally, I won't be recommending this game to anybody. But if someone came up to me and said, I like Shadow Hearts Covenant, I'd say, like, you will probably enjoy Shadow Hearts from the New World. If the developer is watching, so if this basically can go in two directions. It's like, well, I guess maybe three directions. You know, you can pick the best of both worlds. You can have a creepy story and still have slapstick comedy moments and characters doing goofy things and goofy characters like Frank and whatnot. But the thing about these later Shadowheart games is that they just have the quote unquote iconic Shadow Hearts monster design and world design of, you know, like magic and things like that. And they're just there. They don't add anything to the game. They don't create an atmosphere because all the story and all the characters are just kind of doing silly things and saying silly things. And, you know, like, it's not being taken seriously by the narrative elements of the game. And so it just doesn't make any sense to have the creepiness of these, you know, scary looking monsters and things like that when, you know, it just doesn't fit. So I would certainly like to see a return to the creepiness. If you want to keep the comedy stuff, put it where it makes sense. You know, obviously I don't want a horror game, but if we could still have the same vibes that we did in Shadow Hearts 1 while having the combat of Shadow Hearts 2 and, you know, maybe a little bit of goofiness from Shadow Hearts 3, maybe we have a great amalgam of things to work with here. Yeah, I guess when it comes down to it, I think the reboot or what have you is called Penny Blood, I think. Yeah, that was said in the chat. I'm not going to be actively watching it like I have other games in the past, but I'll still keep it on my radar, and, you know, I'll still check out like whatever news articles or what have you. I would be more inclined to watch trailers and read reviews of the game because I'm so on the fence of how the game is going to go. If it's rated M for mature, I'm going to be far more interested in seeing what the game is doing. But if it's rated T for teen, I'm probably extremely less interested because that right there tells me what direction they're going to go just based off of the ESRB rating. So, yeah, to reiterate my overall thoughts, I didn't really enjoy the game, but the game was solid. It's a solid game. Effectively everything up until the final boss was perfectly doable. You know, I got to more or less choose the party that I wanted to choose, and I didn't feel necessarily punished for it. Characters were diverse. You know, it was enjoyable throughout many moments of the journey. The final boss does significantly hinder this game. After doing what I did to beat the final boss, which was look at a guide, look at a speed run of the final boss, like the first, I don't know, like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 turns or whatever, and try to incorporate those elements. There is no freaking way that I would have been able to beat this boss without doing something significant, and going towards the guide and looking at the speed run would be significant in this example. Another significant thing would be grinding to like level 60, which I imagine is something Crayson is going to be doing. Yeah, I don't think I have anything else for my thoughts on this game. Beating it on a Friday, that's exciting. I'm going to catch up on chat real quick. Mr. JRPG missed the win. Thank you for the GG. It's all good. Guess I really like this one. Not really. Since I beat this, now Crayson is free to start his run. Yeah, I'm really actually surprised that he hasn't started it yet. I just assumed that he doesn't have the game yet. Penny Blood looked closer to 1 from what they showed, but it seems to be in development. Troubles from lack of funds. Ooh, I didn't hear anything about that. That's rough times. And here you want Penny Blood to be closer to 2. You loved 1 in Covenant and was kind of mad on this one. Mr. JRPG likes 2, 3, and 1 in that order. Dippo Magoo likes 2, 1, and 3. Well, 2, 1, and then like 3 is super far behind. For me personally, I'm not 100% sure where I would rank 1 and 2, because one still had problems with the goofiness. Like the story wasn't perfect. The narrative development wasn't perfect. And the gameplay was, Zai. One of the big problems, if I remember correctly, of Shadow Hearts 1 was the sanity points, or SP. Like that was just constantly running out. Speaking of sanity points, sick and tired of sanity. Can we get rid of sanity points? Okay, just get rid of them. They're becoming less and less significant in each iteration of the game, and they're basically just getting in the way now. But anyways, like the mechanics and things like that, like, it was overall a very solid game that was enjoyable. But Shadow Hearts Covenant's gameplay, like I said before, it's like the jump from Kingdom Hearts 1 to Kingdom Hearts 2 in terms of gameplay. Like it was just so good. It was so unbelievably good. And so I don't know if I prefer the overall experience of Shadow Hearts 1 more than I prefer the gameplay of Shadow Hearts 2. Now this game, Shadow Hearts from the New World, Shadow Hearts 3, this game is definitely at the back of the pack. I'd feel confident putting Penny Blood ahead of this particular game. It's your fault for preferring to latch on to absurdist, humorous moments. I feel like there's a lot of people out there that do enjoy it. And if I started with Shadow Hearts Covenant as my first game and then went to Shadow Hearts 1, I might have a completely different outlook. But because Shadow Hearts 1 was the experience that I got, I value that very highly, and it's very disappointing to play the subsequent games in the series and have them not reflect what made the series what it is, I guess. Because it's not the creepy monsters, you know, like if you play Shadow Hearts 1 and you liked it, it's not because of the creepy monsters. It's not because of the silly slapstick comedy or whatever. You know, it's like, it's the mood, it's the atmosphere, it's the gameplay, it's the characters, it's the story, you know? But Shadow Hearts 2 is just like, we're going to take the game in a completely different direction, tonally, but we're still going to have the creepy monsters. And that just doesn't work for me. You remember thinking Covenant was still somewhat atmospheric, and this just being straight up comedy, but you played them ages ago. I might be playing down and playing up the atmosphere. It's one of those like whiplash things where the atmosphere in Shadow Hearts 1 is what it is, you know? And then going to Shadow Hearts 2, it just wasn't the same. And so adjusting to that was a difficult thing. Seemed he's busy with work and coincidentally did not start it yet during my run. It could be that. They basically told backers that they need the roguelike spinoff to succeed in landing them a publisher, or they can't continue development. Wow. One of those interesting scenarios where it's like you started a Kickstarter so that you could fund this game. And now you're telling us that you can't fund this game? This is why I don't back Kickstarters, by the way. I think Sanity made more sense in Shadow Hearts 1 and 2, given the more creepy elements and people doing insane, I guess going insane. Sanity has just been a frustrating mechanic for me in all three games. And if they got rid of it, I'd be fine with it. It's a resource management that is obnoxious. It's there was a game that I played somewhat recently where I think it was Dark Cloud 1, where like you have three like resource bars, and they're basically all hit points or whatever. And that's kind of how I feel about sanity points, is it's just another hit point bar that decreases one every turn. And then, you know, like once it's out, then you're kind of worse than dead for that character, that is. You played 1 first and still liked it enough, but vibed with 2 more. The humor, while still having its more serious moments to you, and some of its approaches, and liking the OST of 2 way more than 1. I don't remember the soundtracks for both of them to compare, but there were more tracks in Shadow Hearts 2 that stood out to me during the Level Up This Playlist listen, for sure, than 1. I like both approaches, but this game's story and characters were just a massive downgrade. I would agree with that. And most backers have no interest in roguelikes, so you think it'll flop. Oof. Sanity mechanic added to Pikmin. Let's go. Alrighty. Well, yesterday I said that, we'd probably go the full 4 hours. And look at that. 3 hours, 54 minutes. It's crazy. You backed Penny Blood, and you're not feeling good about it. You also backed Eiyuden, and at least that's coming out. Hey, hold on a second. The world could end in the next 3 hours for all we know. Don't count the hatches before they chicken. That's gonna wrap it up for me for today. So thanks for watching, appreciate it. I'll be back Monday, 7:00 a.m. To play something. I'm gonna end my thoughts here. There's something I gotta say after my thoughts. So yeah.